like all of us, born naturally, I also came into the world upside down. And it took me a very long time to understand the fine print of life. I grew up in a Christian home. I did all the right things. I read my Bible, I prayed, I gave my life to the Lord, and I went to church. I attended meetings, I served in committees, and somehow I could just not do enough. The more I did, the larger the void felt. Ultimately, I realized I was living a life of works. There was no relationship in my belief. There was just deeds. My wife Linda and I, however, was always searching for something new. We always knew that there had to be more to life than what religion was teaching us. And we were constantly willing to experiment, to attend seminars, courses, etc. My wife Linda and I are actually high school sweethearts. We started dating in 1980. Yes, that's a full 40 years ago. And we ultimately left school in 1982. She went to study at university in Port Elizabeth, and I went to the army. In those days, we had to do national service, and I was placed in Bloemfontein, some 500 kilometers away from PE, and ultimately I was sent to Namibia, where I served for the best part of 9 months, and that was approximately 2,500 kilometers from Linda. Despite the distance, we did not cease the relationship, and the glue that kept our relationship together during that time was the glue that you find in the fine print of 1 Corinthians 13. I refer to 1 Corinthians 13 as the fine print on life. The fine print in the sense, if you love like this, you will be fine. As love is defined in 1 Corinthians 13, love is kind, it's not angered easily, it hopes for the best, it covers and it endures. If you have the ability to love like that, and that is the way and the glue, as I said, that kept our relationship, mine and Linda's relationship, going. In those days, there were no Wi-Fi, there were no cell phones. They were just the so-called tiki box, from which you could make a call, and then post, the one you hand deliver. That was how we communicated, and we probably saw each other 6 times in that 2 years. And yet, as I said, somehow the glue stuck. Linda and I got married in 1990. We relocated to Uitenhage. We had no family there. We had no relatives there. Initially, we had no friends there. So we were solely reliant upon one another. And once again, the fact that we had that love, the fine print love, made that we could maintain and grow our love. As the time went by, we developed and fell in a so-called default mode, where you become part of the world, you do the things the world does, and gradually you start, I won't say losing the faith, but yes, you get uninvolved in church activities, because as I said earlier, up to then, we were just practicing Christianity. We were just practicing a type of religion, of doing things. And there wasn't, other than between the two of us in our spiritual world, there wasn't really a relationship. And then one day, by the grace of God, I realized and got to know the fact that life is actually spiritual. And that changed my world, it changed my wife's world. When we realized that there was much more to it, than what we were taught about Christianity. From that day on, I developed a principle where I operated basically between two pillars. The one pillar was the story of the prodigal son. And I would then often say to myself, if you listen to the story, I think, what worse can a child do to his father? During his lifetime, to claim his inheritance, to squander it on wine, bad women, and overindulging. And then that son comes back home, and his fathers welcome him. He arranges a banquet for him, and then the question to myself will always be, how's my story different? Why can't I express that sort of forgiveness and love? On the other hand, the other pillar which I stand on is the story of Jesus and the prostitute, where he told the people that was about to stone her that the one that without sin should cast the first stone. So not even Jesus was willing to judge this woman. And then the question that I always pose to myself, where do I come from to judge people, if not even he was willing to do that? The interesting part of the story is, as time developed, I became a magistrate. And as being a magistrate, it is my job to judge people. One of the challenges as a magistrate is living in the passages of justice. And when confronted by hardened criminals, by abused children and wives and mothers, truly remorseful, accused individuals, desperate parents and children, destitute people, to adjudicate upon their cases upon such a way that the love that is set out in 1 Corinthians 13, the so-called fine print, is actually applied.